Hi guys, so welcome to today's lecture. Today we are going to discuss about queue data structure. So in this lecture, we are going to discuss about what is the definition, what are the different examples we will be talking about, and then operations. And finally, we'll see what are the applications available for queue. So queue is one of the important data structure, right? So that's what we are going to discuss in this lecture. So before discussing about the queue, so if you are not familiar with the stack, so it will be great if you can go ahead and check out my other videos. So where I have explained details about the stack data structure. Okay, so let's jump into the queue data structure, right? So what is the definition, right? It is again a linear data structure like stack, right? So like it is also a linear data structure, right? So that means elements are present in linear fashion, right? So it is a linear data structure. And this is the very important concept. In case of stack, if you remember, it follows a principle. What is that principle? That follows a principle which is last in, first out, right? But in case of queue, it is a linear data structure. So which follow fast in, fast out, right? Fast in, fast out, right? FIFO principle, fast in, fast out, right? So I'll explain. So what is the FIFO principle, how it is being applicable in case of queue, but this is what the definition says. It is a linear data structure, so which follows fast in, fast out, right? So before understanding this particular definition, so let's take an example and understand so how exactly this particular definition fit here. So we know, right? So if we'll talk about the queue, we are actually in day-to-day life, we are very familiar with the queue. So if you are going to the metro, right, or maybe you are going in bus, right, or else you are standing for movie ticket, so then always there is a queue, right? So everywhere if you'll see there is a queue, right? So suppose here is a ticket counter. This is a traditional example. Suppose this is my ticket counter. Any of the ticket counter you are trying to do, right? So then what will happen? So people are standing here, right? People are standing here. So whenever next people is coming, so they are going to be standing at here. That means at the last of the queue, right? So that is the definition of queue. So this is nothing but a queue, right? And this data structure, queue data structure, is nothing but the replica of this particular real world problem also, right? So this is the real world problem, queue, right? A lot of people are standing in the queue. So the same concept is being used in the queue data structure. So let's first understand the principle that is being applied in the case of real world scenario, right? If we can understand that, then same thing also we are going to convert it and map it to our data structure point of view, right? So that is what we will do. Okay, so first thing is that whenever a person comes, right, in this particular queue, where they are going to stand, right? So this is very important. At the end of the queue, right? End of the queue. That means whenever a new person is coming, or maybe you can say in computer science point of view, if a data is being inserted, right? So if you consider this as the data, so if at any point of time, if there is any insertion is happening, right? Then if there is an insertion is happening, that will happen at the end of the queue, right? So that is what. And who is the person? So if I'll ask you, who is the person will get the movie ticket first? So this is very important. So the person who came first, so this person has came first, right? So that's why this person will be getting the movie ticket from this counter. This is my counter, movie counter, maybe movie ticket counter, right? So this person will get the ticket first. So that means, so who is going to be served first or delete? So this one, if you want to delete, so this person is processed, this person get the ticket, so let's delete him from the queue, right? So if you want to delete from the queue, will happen from which end? So then this will happen at which end, right? So this will at the beginning of this particular queue, right? Beginning, right? So that's why, so this particular, if we'll go back to the now the definition, so it says it is a linear data structure which follows fast in, fast out. That means the person who came first, that person must be came out first, right? So the person which came second, so then they will come after this person only. They cannot come before this person, right? So that is the principle of the queue, right? So that is the principle of the queue, right? So how it is different from stack, like I already told, like if you remember, so you need to watch the previous videos related to the stack. Stack follow a different principle which is known as last in first out, right? So last in first out, right? So that is what the principle of the stack, right? So but in case of queue, so the principle that is being followed is known as FIFO principle, first in first out. The person who came to the first to the counter or maybe where they are going to be processed first. Okay, so now I hope you have understand what is a queue and how does it works, right? So means what is an example, right? So let's take an example with respect to array and try to understand so how it is going to work, right? So let's take an example, right? Suppose I have an array, right? So I have an array of some integers. I'm just taking it for simplicity. Suppose this is something is given. Suppose this is my queue, right? And this is my element is inserted, already inserted. That means the person has come, right? Suppose this is 10, 20, right? So this definitely, so one thing you understand, right? So that if any queue is there, if any queue is there, right, so then it will have a size, right? So size will be associated with that particular queue, right? So that means so like in a movie counter theater also, there cannot be thousands number of people standing in the queue, right? Only maybe it will have a capacity of 10, 20 people standing in the queue, right? So that means every queue will have a size, right? Suppose for simplicity, let me assume that the size of my queue is 4, right? So that means there is only 4 people can come, right? Can come and put it into this particular queue, right? So now let's see. So there are two ends, right? So from which, what are the different end, right? So one is known as front end and one is known as rear end. Front end means where the deletion will happen, right? Deletion of element will happen, right? So this is the naming convention. If you remember, right? So in case of like stack, we had only one end, right? So that is the top of the stack. But in case of queue, there will be two different end, because from one end it will be processed and from another end you will be inserting the element, right? So this is one end and this is one end, right? So rear is the element where you will insert an element, right? Insert an element. Okay, suppose I will ask you one question. Suppose insert 30 into this particular queue. So this name is the queue, right? So this is the queue, right? Suppose you want to insert an element into this particular queue. So 30, right? So suppose you want to insert 30, then where exactly it will be inserted? So like we discussed, so there are two end, right? So obviously the insertion will happen at the last, right? Because it is a queue. So it will obviously the person who is coming at the last, they need to stand at the last, right? So that is the same principle. So whenever 30 comes, then what will happen? So then it will be inserted at what end? In technical term, now it is known as rear end. So this end must be then a rear end. Then this end must be in front end, right? So when 30 comes, then I will I will go for the implementation in the next lecture, but just trying to explain you how it will work. Now 30 will be inserted here, right? Now suppose another element comes as 40, right? So then another element 40 comes, right? So then where you will insert, right? So then you will be inserting again here, right? Then you will be inserting again here, okay? So now suppose I will ask you to delete an element, right? Suppose we have done insert 30, right? Insert 30, insert 40 we performed before that, 10, 20 also being inserted. Suppose I'll ask you delete an element, right? So if I will ask you where should you delete, so deletion will happen from the front end, right? So that means the deletion will be happen. So this will return how much? 10, right? So that means this will be deleted because every person who came first, they need to be processed first, right? So this will be deleted, okay? So this is how the queue will work, right? So now suppose after this state, suppose I'll ask you insert 50. Suppose I'll ask you, suppose insert 50, whether you will be able to insert? No, answer is no. So there is no space available after this queue, right? So according to this particular, so this is again, so there is a demerits, I'll go to that, but here, so this will return me one situation. So if you remember in case of stack also, so that is similar, which is known as overflow, right? So that means we cannot insert an element into this particular queue now, right? So because the queue is full, so this condition is known as overflow, Why? Because the queue is full, right? So these are the different operations also we are going to study, right? So like NQ, DQ, insert, or NQ, DQ, front, rear, right? So all these things we are going to study. But anyway, so overflow, right? So if you want to delete one element, so again you will be deleting this element. So I hope it is clear, right? So then again, so now let's understand what are the different, like I already told you what are the different operations, right? What are the different operations? What are the different operations? Can you repeat along with me, because we have already discussed? So one is insert. Insert is just simply inserting an element. So which, where exactly I will be able to insert? Insertion will always happen at the rear end, right? So insert, okay? So but insert in case of queue terminology, so that is known as NQ, right? So this is very, very important. NQ, NQ, right? So NQ means insert, right? Insert. And always remember, insert will happen at which end? This will happen at the rear end, right? So this will happen at the rear end, right? So this will happen at the rear end. Okay, so insert will happen at the rear end, right? So this is very, very important. So in case of queue, it is known as NQ. It is not, means whenever you will write the function and all, we'll understand. So but the terminology that is being used in case of queue, that is known as NQ, right? And it is nothing but insert into the queue, right? And which end it will be inserted? It will be inserted at the rear end. And second point is that, so now we were saying that delete, right? So what is known as which operation? What is the operation name in case of queue? So that is known as DQ, right? So like NQ, so that is known as DQ, means a delete from the queue. This is NQ, means insert into the queue, right? So DQ, so this is known as delete. And obviously now by this time you know from which end you need to delete. You need to delete from the front end, because whoever come first, then you need to process that, right? So this is from the front end, right? So this is from the front end. And what are other operations? Other operations is like while inserting, you have already checked whether it is overflow or not. So then how can you know? You need to check if the stack is full, or sorry, if the queue is full or not, right? So then is full or is empty also some of the operation, right? So that is already there in case of stack. Similar problem also, similar operations is also is empty, is full, also present here, right? So that means it will just check that whether your queue is full or your queue is empty, obviously. So when you will check is empty, so whenever you are trying to delete an element, right? So this will be checked when you are deleting. So basically we'll check when you want to delete an element, so whether somebody is there to take a ticket or not, right? So if you are processing one element, suppose this queue is empty and you are trying to delete something, then there is no meaning, right? So that's why, so you need to check if it is empty, then nobody is there to delete, right? So this operation will be associated with the delete operation or DQ operation, okay? And this is full will be associated with which operation? Can you tell me? Maybe yes, NQ operation or insert operation, right? Why? Because before inserting an element, I must check whether that particular queue is full or not. If it is full, then I cannot push more element to that, right? So that's why, so is full is associated with this particular NQ operation, right? And this is associated with this, right? So these are the some of the operations. Obviously you can check at any time, since there is a front and rear, then you can get actually what is the front, right? What is the front or rear, right? You can return, right? So at any point of time, if I'll ask you what is the front or what is the rear, so then you should be able to write some function. So these are the operations we'll be discussing in details, right? So no need to worry, but this is the just brief description. So how this particular queue and what are the examples, right? And how, what are the different operations that is possible, right? And now coming to the like kind of application kind of thing, right? So what are the different application, right? So applications will be like I already told, right? So basically wherever you need this, right? So application, best application is like flight reservation system, right? So flight reservation system, not only flight, you can say that railway reservation system or flight reservation system, right? Second one is that like in your office or in your like in case of your printing system, right? Printing system, I'll explain what does these does, flight or railway or bus, right? So only online reservation system, maybe you can say. It may be hotel, it may be flight, it may be whatever may be, right? So basically what is happening, suppose 5 people are trying to book the ticket, right? So then what will happen? So obviously the person so who has come to this particular, so they will maintain a queue, right? Otherwise it will be difficult who has come first, right? So then what will happen, so you are trying to book a ticket, so you will come here, and another person is coming to here. If the ticket is if the seat is available, then they will process you, right? So similar case, right? So that means if there are millions of requests coming in the first same time, they will make sure that the person whose request come first, that must be processed first, right? So that is what the concept. Same case goes for printer. Suppose there is only one printer and you want to book, suppose 3 to 4 person is there who is trying to book the print, who is trying to give the printing. So then whose printing command, suppose they have given in the same time. So whose printing command will go? So obviously, so then printer need to decide. So whose command has come first? That printing command must executed first, right? So that means printing is also enabled with with a a queue, right? So queue. I hope it is clear, right? So till this point, so if you have any questions, please just put it into the comment box so that I'm happy to help, right? And apart from that, definitely we are going to discuss about these are the implementation part we are going to discuss, right? So there can be either array implementation or linked list implementation for the same queue. We'll be discussing one by one to them, and obviously we'll be studying more in depth in the next class. For now, this is same. If you are new to my channel, just don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon and share with your friends also, and follow me in LinkedIn also. Okay. So we'll see you in the next class. Thank you so much. Thank you.